Hey guys, Daniel here to bring you our next video. We've been pretty dormant as of late, and some of you guys are probably eager to see us finish the E82 135i full bolt-on series, especially since we're really at the tail end of the project. All we really have left now is tuning with MHD, and then once the weather warms up a little bit more, we'll have a head-to-head showdown between Aiden's full bolt-on 135i and my stock M2 competition. The video that shows tuning with MHD should drop in the next 2 weeks or so be on the lookout for that. Again, sorry for the delay guys, I've had a lot of things going on, so I really appreciate your patience with us. With that said, today I'll be changing the engine oil in my S2000. I think this is the first non-BMW that we've featured on our channel so far. I actually purchased this car from Aiden back in 2016. So it's been about 8 years since I had it. We'll go more into the history of the car and what's been done when we do a proper review, but it's currently sitting at about 35,000 miles and I bought it with 28,000 on the clock. So clearly I don't drive it as much as I should, but I do maintain it like I drive it every day. Now there are tons of videos that walk you through the oil changes for the S2000, and I don't want to bore our audience with yet another generic oil change video that doesn't add much value over other tutorials that are already available. But I wanted to make this video to showcase an oil filter wrench that I recently got from LHT Performance. Back in late 2020, Honda shifted away from the 15400 PCX004 filter to this new 306 filter. The 306 has a slightly larger diameter, so the filter wrench that I've been using on the 004 won't fit snugly, and there wasn't a filter wrench that fit the 306 until now thanks to LHT. Or so I thought, and more on that later. Anyway, my last oil change, I had to use a strap wrench to put on the filter. The problem with that is you can't torque it to spec, and I don't know about you, but I'm not comfortable unless I know for sure my filter is torqued properly. You can do the old method of doing a 7-8 degree turn after the filter makes contact with the surface, but I could never really tell whether my filter made contact or not. So that method wasn't for me, and I had to manually tighten it with a strap and sort of pray that it was close to 18 foot-pounds. But the good news now is that LHT came out with a filter wrench for the 306, and I'm gonna try it out today. First, I want to make sure that it actually does fit, so I did a test fit, and voila, it passed the test. So I'm very pleased with this so far, so let's actually put it to real use and pull out the car and get to work. Here you see I have planks of wood stacked. My S is too low to have clearance for my floor jack, so I have to raise it just a little bit to access the front jacking point. I have the oil-lens coilovers on this car, and there's only about half-inch gap between the tire and the fender, and that's not enough clearance for my floor jack, even though it's a low-profile jack. A quick note here, the placement of the oil drain plug in the S2000 is terrible. I'm not sure why they designed it this way, but if you lift the car from the front like I did, there's gonna be some residual oil sitting at the rear of the oil pan. I'm sure it's not a big deal, but I hate the idea of mixing that much old oil with new, so I lowered the car to get as much old oil out as possible. Alright, here's where I ran into some trouble, and it frustrated me till no end. After removing the filter, I couldn't take the filter wrench off of the filter by hand. This was never a problem with other filter wrenches I've used for the 004. After trying out many different methods, and failing, I ended up punching it out with this heavy-duty socket extension that did the trick, but painful nonetheless. Then I had the same issue after I installed a new filter, and that was even harder to take the wrench off because I have no room to punch it out. Not that I would want to with a new filter anyway. How do I get this shit off, man? Ugh. Fucking A. It's really atypical of me to be this frustrated, but I was so done with it at this point that I had to let it out. After trying a few different ways and failing again and again, I removed it by inserting a 3/8" ratchet directly into the wrench. When I was test fitting both the ratchet and a 90mm on the tool, the ratchet was pretty tough to take off. So I figured maybe it'll give enough force to remove the wrench from the filter. And that's exactly how it turned out. Okay, so after much venting and swearing, I messaged LHT on Instagram and shared my experience with them. And they told me that I need to turn the wrench counterclockwise after torquing the filter to spec to unlock the wrench. And that'll give enough play to separate the wrench from the filter. To quote them, I suggested their product page or the instruction manual to mention those extra steps, and that would really help both the current and future users because these steps aren't what we're accustomed to. Since then, they did update their product page to outline the steps, and there's also a YouTube short video on their account that demonstrates these steps. So with that, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the price. This filter wrench is probably the most expensive one I bought to date. It's $89, and add $10 for shipping, you have an oil filter wrench that costs $100. It is a really nice piece, and the craftsmanship is stellar. Without a doubt, it'll last me a long time, if not for the life of the vehicle. But I don't care what anyone says. That's an absurd price for an oil filter wrench. But I grabbed one anyway because you can't put a price on safety. You hear so many horror stories about filters falling off because they weren't torqued properly, and I obviously don't ever want to go through that. And I have a much stronger affinity for the S2000 than my M2 competition, believe it or not. I'll do anything to maintain it properly, and in grand scheme of things, $100 is a small price to pay. After actually using it, and given all its pain points, and its price point for that matter, would I buy it again? Honestly, if the counterclockwise turn thing actually unlocks the wrench, and it's easy to slip off the wrench from the filter, I think I will. Supposedly, according to the S2KI forum, there are other wrenches that now fit the 306 that can be had for a quarter of the price. So if you just need to get the oil change done, then whether you use LHTs or something from Amazon, you'll get the job done and effectively arrive at the same end result. But there's something about craftsmanship that makes you see the beauty behind the cost. That's why we as car enthusiasts buy a brand like BMW, even though a Hyundai Elantra has no problem taking you from point A to B. The journey matters, and the craftsmanship matters. Whether that's worth it for something like a filter wrench is obviously subjective and entirely up to you. For me, it was, and I'd be happy to buy another one if they come out with an improved version later down the line. Well, with that said, that's it for today, and we'll see you on the next video where we'll showcase tuning with MHD on Aiden's 135i. Take it easy, guys.